January. Mark and I have been reading through Exodus. Tonight we're going to be reading the 17th chapter, and this is where Moses smites the rock and water comes out. I'll turn this over to Mark and have him read it, and then I'll make a few comments about it. I hope you all have a blessed evening.
Exodus chapter 17. All the congregation of children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after journeys, according to the command of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim. There's no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? People thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us, and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They must be all ready to stone me. The Lord said to Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. Call the name of the place Massa and Meribah, because the children of the chiding the children, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or no? Then came Amalek and followed Israel in Rephidim, and Moses said unto Joshua, Choose out men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. The Lord said to Moses, Write this memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua. Utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. For he said, Because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark, for reading that for us. You know, one of the things I've learned by reading the Old Testament is there's a lot of good practical instruction in there for us as New Testament believers. We see here that when they didn't have water to drink, the people became really upset, didn't they? Well, you know, you got to have water to survive, right? Every day, every week, my wife goes into the grocery store and she gets this distilled water, and we go through a lot of water, making coffee and different things. And they said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said, Why chide ye with me? And anyway, we know the story how that Moses was instructed at this time to smite the rock. Now he later on was told to speak to the rock, and he smote it instead of speaking to it, and it got him in trouble, didn't it? And then we see that Moses told Joshua to go out and fight with Amalek, and so Joshua did as Moses said to him. And how God was faithful in delivering Amalek and up. And so Moses built an altar. But what's the practical lessons in this? The practical lessons is that we shouldn't go after God's ministers when they're merely proclaiming what God tells them to proclaim, right? Also, when we don't get something that we immediately need, we shouldn't go after God's ministers, because God is the one that's in charge of everything. And we should be careful to do what God instructs us to do. If He tells us to smite the rock, we should smite the rock. If He tells us to speak to the rock, we should speak to the rock, right? And now, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you felt very strongly that God was telling you to do something. I've had that. Where I felt very strongly compelled to say something or do something. And when we don't obey God, we have to pay for it, don't we? Later on, we have to pay for it. But when we are in obedience to God, there's usually a great blessing associated with it. May you have a good blessing tonight. And hopefully this scripture reading has been a blessing to everyone. God bless.